Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Version 1, a podcast where interesting people come to talk about their creative processes, imposter syndrome, inspiration, failures along the way, and much more. I'm your host, Waverly, and we are at My Friend's Basement Podcast Studio in Bushwick, Brooklyn. You can follow our show on Instagram at Version 1 Podcast and on Substack, and you can find me on buymeacoffee.com/Waverly Colville. Please leave a nice review wherever you're listening to this and rate us 5 stars. And you can listen to this episode normally or head over to YouTube to watch the video version. All right, this week I am here with my guest, Aaron Nessel. He is the founder of the clothing brand Bushwick Yacht Club. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Can we just start off with having you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Aaron Nessel. I am the founder and creative director and shipping coordinator and marketer and one-man show of Bushwick Yacht Club.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a very famous brand locally in the Bushwick area.
Yeah.
I discovered it because my first introduction to your brand was the stickers
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's these stickers that say Bushwick has a yacht club,
Mhm.
all over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I remember I moved to the neighborhood 5 years ago, and I remember seeing those stickers and being like, what is this? And
Totally.
Googling it.
Yeah,
And that's how I
yeah,
originally
absolutely.
discovered you.
That's a huge part of how I market or promote the brand. And it's so fun. Typically I'll leave my house with a stack of stickers. If you look at my bag right now, I have a rubber band stack of stickers that I always carry with me. And if I see a spot, I was getting off at the Morgan train stop and I saw a spot to put them up, and I always put them around everywhere. It's really fun. It's a good way to promote the brand.
I love that. Yeah, it's in real life marketing, I think when we're so inundated with digital ads and stuff like that,
100%,
I think it's so cool to have that in-person strategy. Was that a strategy you had kind of going into it? Did you know it would be kind of this viral thing throughout the neighborhood when you started, or did it just kind of happen organically?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to when I grew up, I used to hang out at I was a skateboarder growing up, and we would hang out at this one skate shop, and we would always take stickers and put them all over the city. So it was kind of always something that I did with as a kid, and I knew when I started this brand that I wanted that to be a part of it, because I love the sticker culture and the graffiti culture in New York is a major inspiration for me. And so I love just kind of putting those up and just carrying them with me and putting them up everywhere. One of my favorite things to do actually is on the weekends, I go on walks with my dog, and I go with stacks of stickers in my pocket, and I'll walk around to new neighborhoods, and it's a fantastic way to see the city. So if I think to myself, I haven't, let's say I haven't been to Crown Heights or something like that, right? I'll go with my dog, I'll drive to Crown Heights, park, get out, walk around Crown Heights, and put hundreds of stickers up.
Oh my
I've
God,
probably
I love
put up,
that.
I don't know, I've probably put up thousands and thousands of stickers all over the city. And it's it's a good way to promote the brand. And it's if you start seeing something over and over and over and over again, it really sticks in your head. And because the sticker poses a question, Bushwick has a yacht club, and it makes you think, you see it. And if you see it 100 times, you're does Bushwick have a yacht club? And you look, and it kind of will drive you. If you think of a customer journey, you see the sticker, you're okay, whatever, it's just another sticker. And then you see it another 10 times and you're what is this? I have to check. And you go online and you search Bushwick has a yacht club, and it'll take you to the website, and it'll kind of just it's an interesting customer journey from the aspect of seeing a sticker and kind of driving traffic to the site.
Yeah, I mean, that was my journey exactly.
Yeah,
Seeing
yeah,
these stickers,
exactly,
and I love the name of the brand because it's kind of it's funny, it's ironic, it's kind of poking fun a little bit at the neighborhood. Could you talk to me a little bit about how you came up with the name Bushwick Yacht Club?
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. So I can tell you also the whole brand story, but I'll start with the name for sure. I always wanted to do something I've always have this I'm a pretty sarcastic person, and I always have this kind of irony to a sense of humor to me. And when I started Bushwick Yacht Club, I was inspired by a few things. Number one was there was this old skate brand called Asphalt Yacht Club, which I was I love that. It's very clever. It's kind of a juxtaposition. It kind of doesn't make sense. And then there was a couple other brands, or a couple other there was Bushwick Country Club, this bar in Bushwick that has a little pitch and putt behind it. Now pitch and putt has a little mini golf. You know it?
I've heard of it before.
Yeah. And so I would see stuff like that, and I would think oh my God, this is so clever. It's like there's so many things like there's so many things that you see out there, and especially like for like clothing brands. There's a lot of clothing brands. The market is very saturated, and I knew that I wanted to have like some sort of like kind of like clever name. So I came up with the name Bushwick Yacht Club, and I was like, okay, like this like it's funny. The juxtaposition is like obviously there's no water in Bushwick.
Yeah.
The people in Bushwick are more like the complete opposite of what you would think of like a Nantucket red pants polo shirt of a yacht club. Like I walked outside of my house the other day and I saw a person with like thigh high blue roller skates and a pink afro. You know what I mean? And that's like that's why Bushwick is Bushwick. It's like a very cool, like kind of like let your freak flag fly, like very kind of like accepting, cool place. And that juxtaposition in the name just made so much sense to me, and it stuck. And I was like, okay, like this is it. And it's fun. You know what I mean? You look at it and like that, like I never take myself too seriously, and I never take the brand too seriously. And I always wanted to have like this kind of like fun, like sense of humor to it. And that shows in my designs, that shows in like some of the stuff that I produce. But I started the brand with 100 beanies. And I thought to myself, like, maybe I'll sell 50 of them to my family and friends, and I'll keep 50 in my basement for Christmas gifts for the rest of my life. I thought it was going to be like this funny shtick. Like, 10 years later, you're opening up a Christmas gift for me, and it's like, oh my God, I'm getting the same beanie.
Another beanie.
another Bushwick Yacht Club beanie from this thing that he tried 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So made the 100 beanies, started an Instagram, started Shopify, and like shout out to Shopify. Shopify makes e-commerce like so incredibly easy. I should get a job at Shopify one day. And I did some marketing. So I like sent some stuff to some influencers, and then I just started putting stickers up. I launched, fast forward 3 months, I sold 750 beanies.
That's crazy.
So those 3 months, like all I did throughout that winter, I launched in November. All I did throughout that winter was just tried to like keep up with demand. I was running to the store in the garment district where I got the hats. I was running to my tailor in the Lower East Side, like the guy who sews them on. And it was like this amazing, like kind of like chaotic proof of concept, right? Like this really does work. Like people are really liking this. And it was such a cool feeling. And it's like, so it's like amazing to create something and then to have people receive it well when you think like, oh my God, like, I don't know if anybody's going to like this. I don't know how this is going to go over. And then to like have that positive reaction to something that you've created is like one of the coolest things that I've ever done.
Yeah. Why do you think the reception was so positive and so successful right away? Because a lot of people start clothing brands and they don't sell anything for months or years.
For sure.
But yours took off right away. So
Yeah.
what was it about your brand that made it so successful?
Good question. I think that there's a few factors. I think the first factor was the time. So it was like heart of the pandemic. So November 2020, everybody's locked in their house, everybody's doing Zoom calls, and everybody's on the internet and on Instagram. They haven't spent their money at a retail shop in probably like 6 months. And here comes this brand, and it's the winter time. So November into November into like February is during that like 750 hat period. Good to give as Christmas gifts. It has like a funny name. I think there was like two kind of like catalysts. The first catalyst was like part of this like community that I'm in of New York of like, just like kind of like-minded, not necessarily like, fashion creative people, mostly like more like music creative people. And I'm in this group chat with, it's called Rapture. It's like my homies, shout out Drew and Reka. And there's like, I don't know, maybe 500 people in the group chat, and there could be more now. And I went in the group chat and I said, hey guys, I'm launching this brand. I hope you like it. Also another aspect, and I'm sure you know of Bushwick Yacht Club, is that for every item we sell, we donate one to a local shelter, and we can get more into that. It's really cool. It's like, it's the most amazing feeling, like, giving back. But I put all of the info in this chat, and I started to see like the sales roll in, right? And then from like the little bit of marketing, and like I sent a few things to like some kind of like cool influencers. And that kind of like started the spawn of the 750, because it's like a ripple effect, right? Like you see someone wearing a hat and it says Bushwick Yacht Club, and again, the name itself, like you look at it and you're like, what is that? Like, and it's like it was like a regular like Carhartt hat, right? In a bunch of colors. And I think people thought to themselves, they're like, I could either buy a Carhartt hat or I could buy this cool Bushwick Yacht Club hat. And also it's doing something good for the homeless community in New York. And I think that there's like a combination of those kind of like two things. The market, like the initial marketing, the product and the name itself, and like using this like kind of like community of homies to kind of like push it out.
I love that. I want to
Yeah.
go back in time a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to when you had the initial idea and
Mm-hmm.
were just getting started with the business. Why start a clothing brand? Like, what was going on in your life at the time, and why then?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it all spawns from like my childhood of like growing up in the 90s in this like really cool influx of like skateboarding and streetwear and hip hop. And it was always kind of like, it was like this ecosystem that I always kind of like was like the kind of like early influence of my life. And I've always loved fashion brands. I've always loved, not necessarily like, I've never been into like high fashion or anything like that. I've always more been into like streetwear and kind of like skate brands and stuff like that. And I always thought it was so cool. A couple guys that I knew when I was younger had started some brands. Also saw people during the pandemic like starting things. One of my wife's really good friends started like a jumpsuit brand, and she was giving back. And I was like, it's so cool. It's like, and during the time, I was working a corporate job, and it was really slow due to the pandemic. And I was like, well, I gotta like start to like kind of like do something with my time. And so that's kind of like the inspo or like the spawn of like the time during the pandemic, or the inspiration early to like always kind of like love clothes and like, and like also like I'm a consumer too, you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
buy a bunch of stuff. I look at, and like I'm a sponge, and like I see all this kind of like cool brands other doing other kind of like cool stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And then after that really successful first set of beanies,
Mm-hmm.
how did your brand expand into other things? Like now you have sweatshirts
Yep.
and hats and t-shirts. So how did
Totally.
that growth
Yeah,
happen?
absolutely. So what I did was I actually had this really funny moment when after I sold the 750 beanies, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? My next thing is I'm going to make sweatshirts. I made sweatshirts in the spring of 2021. After selling the 750 beanies, I made like 400 sweatshirts. I made all these sweatshirts. They're all sitting in my apartment. My wife is like, "What is all this stuff? It's like you're taking up like half of our place." Um, I launched them, and I sold like 25. And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I overproduced. I don't have any more space in my apartment. I have all this like money tied up in inventory." Um, and so from there, that was kind of just like the original like the next product story. But from there, I just kind of like had this like curiosity to like kind of like expand into other products and like do other things. And I think that that's kind of like where it spawned from, of just saying like, okay, the beanies were successful. The sweatshirts, like I ultimately sold all of the sweatshirts, thankfully. But like just kind of like wanting to like test out, and like the curiosity to like make other products. I ultimately like kind of like dialed in my production a little bit, and like once I had some like historical data and like how much stuff I sold, I knew that I could like produce this amount and sell it. But I think it was just like a lot of like curiosity to like try other stuff, and like seeing other brands doing other stuff and saying like, why can't I do that as well? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that that because those were sort of the early days, and now that
Hmm.
your brand has existed for 5 years, do you have any important experiences and lessons from those early days that you've carried with you through today?
Yeah, absolutely. That sweatshirt story was definitely like one of them, of knowing like just from like a business perspective of like, okay, like you don't have to order 400 sweatshirts. Like you can order 100 and then test it out. And if it doesn't sell, like you're not sitting on all of that inventory. But like also like just like making mistakes through like production as well. Like I've learned really well how to like dial in and communicate with my screen printer. My screen printer, another thing I wish I would have known is like, I wish I would have been with my same screen printer the whole time, because it took me like 3 or 4 rounds of screen printers to figure out that this guy's the best. Shout out Matt at Classy Screens on Onderdonk. Incredible. Like, I think having him as like a screen printing partner is like a fantastic for the brand. So like anybody that's listening to this that was thinking about starting a brand, like go see Matt for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just curious because I feel like a lot of people make a lot of mistakes in the early days of whatever their project or endeavor is.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely a lot of growth and learning experiences
Yeah,
from
for
those
sure.
early
Yeah,
days.
exactly. And like all of the mistakes that we make are like, are all learning experiences. And like, and that's what helps me like through when I make mistakes now, because like, listen, like 5 years into the brand and I'm doing this. I had never worked in fashion. I had never worked in clothing production. And like making a ton of mistakes, and all of the mistakes that I'm sure I'll make going forward, I'm able to look at those, and instead of like being down on myself, saying, okay, let me use this as a learning experience, while also like now knowing how to not assume so much risk.
Mhm.
Right.
As someone who didn't have a professional background in the fashion world before starting your brand,
Mm-hmm.
did you feel any sort of imposter syndrome when you were first starting out?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like maybe like hot take, I don't necessarily think like imposter syndrome is like a bad thing. I think it's like a good way for people to be able to like put themselves in like uncomfortable situations. New York is a perfect place to do this because there's a lot of really smart people doing a lot of really cool things. But I'm not sure if I felt imposter syndrome in the early days. I think that there are times where, and maybe like self-doubt and imposter syndrome kind of like go hand in hand. And there's always like a little bit of like vulnerability, right? From anybody creating anything, unless you have like the illest proven track record in the history of the world, there's always like a little bit of like vulnerability when you release things.
Mhm.
No matter what, still when I release stuff, I always think to myself, I'm like, oh man, I hope this does well. You know what I mean? It always has for me, but I think there's always that like little bit of like kind of self-doubt, or a little bit of like vulnerability when you release things and they don't do as well as you would think, or like as well as you would hope. And then like then there creeps in some sort of like imposter syndrome, or again, like, this kind of like influx, or like this world of vulnerability and imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And I think like in the creative world, or maybe like even with anybody doing anything that's not like a standard corporate 9 to 5, right? Like putting
Mhm.
yourself out there, putting your ideas at risk, right? There's always kind of like this like sense of like, oh, I hope this does well,
Yeah.
you know?
When you are having those moments of self-doubt, how do you get yourself out of it?
Yeah, good question. I think that I realize that like it's not really that much at risk. If I print something, or if I have a design and it doesn't do well, it's like whatever. I get 50 t-shirts sitting in my sitting in my apartment for a little while. In the grand scheme of things, like I try to like think of like like total like absolute like first world problems. So I think that like putting those kind of like failures, or what have you, into scale with other problems that other people are going through in the world, kind of helps me like, okay, like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you mentioned earlier that giving back has always been a core part of your mission. Can you tell me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that side of your business and the organizations that you work with?
Absolutely, for sure. So as before that, right? Like my love language is like gifting. I love gifting things to people. Like any of my friends will tell you that I've given them like every Bushwick Yacht Club t-shirt that I come out with, I'm giving to my friends, and I'm like, hey, you want a t-shirt? And they're like, no, dude, I have too many. Like my entire wardrobe is Bushwick Yacht Club. I give people stuff at my corporate job, and we can get into that kind of like other part of my life as well. But like I gift things to people all the time, and it makes me happy. It's how I show affection. It's how I show that like I care about a person. It's like, you know, it's my love language, and so that translates into my brand. It translates into the feeling that it gives me to like, you know, try to make a difference in people's lives who need it. So the story of gifting through Bushwick Yacht Club is that my business model is very similar to Tom's or Bomba's. So for every item we sell, we donate one to a local homeless shelter. I've worked with a ton of organizations, uh, Bushwick Ayuda Mutua, North Brooklyn Mutual Aid, um, The Door is who I'm working with now, and I'll tell you about them. They're really cool. Um, Breaking Ground. Uh, there's a couple more. There's too many to remember. But essentially, what I do is for every item I sell, I donate one to a local homeless shelter. So if you're out there and you buy a hat from me, I donate a blank hat to The Door. If you buy a T-shirt from me, I donate a blank T-shirt to The Door. The charity that I'm working with now and that I've been working with for the past year and a half is called The Door. They're on Broome Street in Soho. They are phenomenal. Like not only do they do like youth at-risk youth services for places to live. They also do medical services. They also do legal services. They also have like a full school within their program in Soho. It's just like a really amazing, like safe space for at-risk or, you know, yeah, I guess at-risk youth in New York to go. One of my favorite feelings is buying 500 t-shirts, buying 500 beanies, buying sweatshirts, driving my car into Soho. I got a dolly in the back of my car, and I'm pushing hundreds of t-shirts into this like amazing organization. How it's received, how like I'm pushing it in, and kids are like, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" And it's just it's so cool to be able to make a difference. Is like one of my favorite things ever. And again, back to like, you know, just like the core of who I am, of like, you know, gifting being my love language. It's like really it's a really amazing thing to do, and it fills my soul like more than anything.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's such a wonderful way to impact your local community. I think
Totally.
sometimes in the world, especially when there's a lot of bad news or scary things happening,
Mm-hmm.
people get so overwhelmed, and it's like, oh, it's like kind of this paralysis of like, how do I help? Like I can't help like,
Yeah,
you
of
know, these
course.
giant global issues, but
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing because you can help people in your own backyard, and that contributes
Absolutely.
overall.
100%. And whether
Yeah.
that's like if anybody's out there and they're thinking like, you know, how can I help? Go donate at a soup kitchen. Go you know, go, you know, there's so many options of being able to help. Go make a sandwich and give it to the guy on the block who really needs it. You know, it's like there's so many little things. And yeah, actually, you know what else I really love doing? Sometimes
Yeah.
when people like return things. So like let's say I send you a package and you get it and it doesn't fit right, or it's not what you expected. People will email me and they'll say like, "Hey, listen, it's not what I expected. Can I return it to you?" One of my favorite things to do is send them back and say like, you know, I'll refund you obviously, but instead of sending it back, could you give it to someone in need? Right. And like
That's
just,
beautiful.
yeah, and like being able to like, you know, empower people to make those like little kind of like those little gestures, which like, you know, again, in a world where like politics are crazy, the world is a crazy place, there's a lot of stuff going on, to be able to have those like little moments is super important, super important.
Yeah. Do you have any stories of people you met, maybe through the door or any other organizations that you worked with, of how you've seen your donations impact them?
So I've seen, I don't know if I have stories, but I've seen kids in the city with Bushwick Yacht Club shirts that I know are ones that I've donated, or like hats that match the ones that I've donated. So like to be able to like kind of like see that in the wild is really cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's like a cool, like little, like, just to me moment,
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier you work full time and then
Yeah.
you run this on the side. How do
Mm-hmm.
you balance both? Because it has to be a lot of work.
Fantastic question. It is a lot of work, and I spend a lot of hours. So, my day job is I work for Uber. I work for Uber corporate in the city. I come from a restaurant background. Like my dad owned restaurants my whole life, and I worked in restaurants up until I was, t- into my late 20s, and then I kind of like got my stuff together. And so what I do is I have a group of restaurants in New York that I help kind of like grow their business. Um, it's a fantastic job, fantastic company. I love the people that I work with. Balancing a full-time corporate job, which is like, my main means of income, pays my rent. I got my insurance through them. Um, Being able to try to like, grow a brand and something that you're super passionate about, and then also work a corporate job requires, number one, just like a dedication to like a lot of time. It's like I work all the time. Not all the time, but like, I'm constantly like thinking about Bushwick Yacht Club, thinking about Uber. And I think like my tip, if someone were to ask me, is like time blocking, right? So I go to work 9 to 5. I'm just thinking about work, right? I'm able to like put my blinders on and focus and say like, I'm just thinking about work right now. I come home, I have dinner, and I say, okay, I walk my dog. I have 2 hours after that where I'm going to work on Bushwick Yacht Club, whether it's like um, working on designs, answering emails, anything like that. But I basically just kind of like time block um, my time in order to effectively get everything done. And I think like in the end, it's like it's super difficult to get everything done. But you just got to like push through and and try to do the. I just try to do the best I can. Yeah.
What do you do for self-care to make sure that you don't get burnt out?
Fantastic question. I exercise. Yeah, I exercise, and I do things every week that make me really happy. Um, so like my favorite thing to do, my favorite New York activity, and which is like the best way to start a weekend ever, is I take my dog to Prospect Park at 7:30 in the morning. So at Prospect Park, from like sunrise to 9 a.m. is off leash hours. Uh, my wife and I drive our dog to Prospect Park from Bushwick. It's like 25-minute drive. And we walk around for an hour and a half, and my dog Millie gets to like rip around, and she's like 75 pounds, boxer, pit, lab, Rottweiler. She's a beast. She's the best. And I have a good story of like how I got Millie essentially through a connection in from Bushwick Yacht Club.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So going to Prospect Park and doing those things that like make me happy, um, giving myself like a little bit of kind of like time to just like do the things that I really love. Exercising is huge. Like trying to like sleep well is also really huge. And I like, like just learned how to do that in the last like 6 months, maybe not even. But like doing things like that, and like, um, taking time to myself and like reading a little bit, like instead of scrolling on Instagram on the train to work, maybe like reading a fun book, right? Or like I read a lot of like nonfiction. My two favorite authors are like the ones I'm loving now are Dennis Lehane, who writes a lot of like crime fiction novels. He wrote like Gone Baby Gone, Mystic River. And this guy named Carl Hassan, who's a Florida author, who writes these like silly, like kind of like fun, like
Oh, he wrote Who, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay,
Exactly.
yeah.
He's so good. And it's so fun. And it's like, it like takes my mind off things, and it's like kind of like fun to like kind of read that. So yeah, like a combination of exercise, doing things that make me happy, trying to like not like doom scroll on my phone, things like that, or like, kind of like ways that I'm able to like for self-care. But it's like also like it's harder said than done. Harder said than done. Yeah. It's it's no, yeah,
Easier
it's
said than done.
no, it's hard. It's hard to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to like in the moment, like think like, okay, like it's 8 in the morning and I'm instead of on my phone, I got to like make a conscious decision of like, I got to read because I know that like if I read before I get to work, it's going to like put me in a light mood rather than like, especially with everything going on in the world, scrolling through my phone and seeing what's going on. And yeah, so a combination of those things like kind of like keep me sane. Also, my wife does a really good job at keeping me sane too. Yeah.
Oh
She's
my
the
gosh.
best.
I love the picture of you running around Prospect Park with your dog in the morning because
Yeah.
I've taken my dogs to Prospect Park before with my
Mhm.
boyfriend, but never in the morning.
Yeah.
And one of my dogs is good enough to be off leash. The other one is not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to do that.
It is fantastic. By far my favorite New York activity. Yeah. And also like to get in how I got my dog.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So she's a rescue dog. I got her from Social Tees. You know Social
Yeah,
Tees?
I do.
They're the best. So the first collab that I did through Bushwick Yacht Club was with an artist named Chris RWK. Like Robots Will Kill. Like really, really just like legend artist in New York. We did a collab. It was like Bushwick Yacht Club, Robots Will Kill, and we donated 100% of the profits to Social Tees. I think it was, I forget the number. It was thousands of dollars. So we donated thousands of dollars to Social Tees, which is like such a sick initiative, right? Like it's so cool. And they're such a cool organization. So I started following them. My wife starts following them. We're sending pictures of dogs back and forth. And she sends me a picture. She sends me one of their posts. It was like, foster needed immediately. And it was like,
that's how they get you.
Oh, it was insane. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And we have 2 cats on top of that. I have more rescue stories. So we fostered Millie, and she was just like such a bundle of joy. 2 days later, we're signing the adoption papers, and we've had her for 3 years almost.
That's beautiful.
She's the best. Yeah. During the pandemic, my wife rescued and found homes for like 35 kittens.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's a beast.
That's incredible.
Yeah, she's the best. It started with we had 2 cats in our backyard. They had babies, and we thought to ourselves, we were like, if we don't do something, these 5 cats is going to turn into 10, is going to turn into whatever. And as we got the cats like neutered and spayed, we took a class in Staten Island for it so we could get them done for free through the ASPCA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And throughout that, she like joined Facebook groups and like, there was one point where during the pandemic where we had like Millie, our 2 cats, and like 10 other cats. Like they were all kittens, like tiny little kittens. And it was the best. Yeah.
Wow, your apartment sounds like a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sometimes it smelled like Petco sometimes, but yeah, now it's good.
Is Bushwick Yacht Club going to release pet clothes?
We should 100%. You know, I was going to do,
because I would buy all of it.
For sure. I need to do that. You know what I need to do? I need to collab with Bushwick Bark. You know Bushwick Bark, and they have
I love them.
They're so good. And they have like the little dog jackets. I should hit them up if you're listening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because they have their own merch. So you could do some sort of collab.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're speaking of dogs, I'm wearing the Maria Hernandez Dog Park t-shirt that Bushwick Yacht Club did a couple years ago. Could you tell me a bit about this collaboration?
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to do something for the dog park, and I never knew kind of like what it was. And I had this idea, and I reached out to the people that run the Instagram account for the dog park. And then I reached out to the artist who did the work on there, and essentially like kind of just like pitched my idea. I said, hey, listen, I want to do, I sent them the info from the collab we did with Robots Will Kill. And I said, I have this idea. I think it would be really cool to do a collab for the dog park where we donate 100% of the profits, right? Reached out to the artist, said, hey, this is the idea, right? We want to do design, we want to release a t-shirt, and we want to donate the profits. So essentially like just like having the idea of thinking like, okay, like it kind of like started with like, what would be a cool cause to like donate, right? So like the idea kind of started of like, okay, here's the need of Maria Hernandez Dog Run to like, and listen, I don't think we would ever like make enough money to like overhaul the whole thing, but like we can make enough to like make a small difference, right? To get enough rocks to lay over the wet patches, to like, just to kind of like make a small difference.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was awesome. Yeah, I think I got an Instagram ad for this.
Yeah, yeah.
So my boyfriend and I both got t-shirts. So now we have matching shirts
I love
that
that.
we wear
I
together
love that.
to
It's so
support the local
good.
dog park because
Yeah,
we're
thank
also
you.
in there almost every day
Yeah, for
with our
sure.
two little ones.
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
I want to dive into your creative process.
Hmm.
So starting at the beginning, where do you find inspiration?
Yeah, fantastic question. So I think I pull inspiration from a lot of places. Probably like three in general. Yeah. So like places, people's a huge one for me, and like what like other kind of like brands that I look up to are doing. Um, Start with the people. I grew up going to a skate shop, or like I grew up skateboarding like every day from like age 10 to 17. I was either skateboarding with like my crew of like five friends, or like at home watching skate videos with them, right? As a part of that, there was this really cool skate shop that we used to hang out at called Concepts. It was at the time, it was like a tiny little skate shop in the back of a shoe store. And it's really sick. It's a really cool place. And the guys that owned it were like, at the time, and probably still are, like some of like the coolest, like swaggiest dudes. And also not only from like a style inspiration, but like a business inspiration. You know what I mean? It's like stylish people who are doing really cool things, who are putting themselves out there, who are like creating businesses, who are creating opportunities for people. And then also just like the world of skateboarding itself was kind of like my like early inspiration. Again, this like moment of skateboarding and hip hop and streetwear. I actually have one of my a good kind of like story to like sum this up is the first concert that I ever went to was part of this like skateboarding jam concert thing in Killington, Vermont. It was called Brooklyn, Vermont. It was put on by some dudes from New York, I think. It was essentially like a skate contest. All the dudes from New York, from Boston, all went to Killington, and then there was a concert afterwards. So me and my little like 16-year-old like hell raising homies, we went and we watched everybody skate, and we like skated in like the jam with them, and then the concert afterwards was in a ski lodge, and it was my favorite hip hop duo, probably still to this time, Mos Def and Talib. It's Black Star. So it was Black Star in a ski lodge, and opening up for Black Star. So we had to sneak in. It was like 21 plus. We snuck in the back, and we got there early, and we saw the opening act. The opening act was this like skinny dude with blonde hair, and he comes on and he goes, "Any man that would jump in front of a minivan for 20 grand, a bottle of pain pills." And we're like, who is this dude? And it was Eminem.
Oh my gosh.
Me and my homies at 16 saw Eminem and Royce the 5'9" open for Black Star in a ski lodge in Burlington and at Killington, Vermont.
Wow.
Like, talk about like this cool like intersection of like skateboarding and hip hop and streetwear, and that kind of like that was like such like a cool time for me at like a very like kind of like young impressionable age. And so that's like, if you take like the people, places, and things, that was like the kind of like the people thing, right? Or like the, I guess, places too. Walking around New York City for me, like I'm a sponge. I look at everything, and I think also that ties back to skateboarding. Is like as like a young skater, you're always like looking for like the cutty little spots. Like, where's the ledge over here? Like, is there like a bank over here that I can skate? So I'm very like observant, right? And I'm a sponge, and I'm looking at everything. And I'll give you two good examples. I like also like every trash can that I look at for other stickers, but also like to see if mine are on there, and if not, I put one on. There's a graffiti writer and guy that puts up stickers named EXOE. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah. He has this really sick font in his stickers that looks blurry. So like you look at it and it like looks kind of blurry. And I thought to myself, I was like, that's a really sick font. how could I use that to like put it on a shirt? And I hit him up on Instagram and I was like, hey, I'm super inspired by your font. Do you mind if I use it? And he was like, yeah, of course. And I sent him some shirts. Super, super nice. And I made a shirt that said afters, right? So it's like an arch and it says afters and it's really blurry, which ties into like, also like the party culture of Bushwick, right? So like you see a sweatshirt and it says afters and it's blurry and it like kind of gives you like this weird like thing of like, oh my God, am I seeing that right? And it says afters and it could like, fire little party receptors in your brain or like little memories of being in the afters and not being able to see straight. And then like another one is there is this building, the Ridgewood Towers. You know it?
No. What is it?
At Myrtle Wyckoff. You know that big building at Myrtle Wyckoff that's not finished?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I didn't know what it was called.
Yeah. So it's called according to the sign on the construction site, it's called Ridgewood Towers. Or Tower. I thought to myself, I was like, this thing is like, just like, it hasn't been finished. It's like kind of this like out of place, like huge building. Like what could I make that would be so hyper local that people only in the neighborhood would know, and that would have like a little bit of familiarity or like have like a little bit of humor to it. So I took the Ritz-Carlton Residences logo and I put Myrtle Wyckoff underneath it. Cause like, if you look, like all of like the regular like Ritz-Carlton hats are like, Ritz-Carlton Waikiki, Ritz-Carlton wherever, right? And to have like this like silly like Ritz-Carlton Residences Myrtle Wyckoff, again, like goes to like the humor of the brand and like this fun like juxtaposition.
I remember seeing that in Instagram and audibly laughing because it was so funny.
Yeah.
And I guess really quickly, we kind of talked about this in the beginning, but for people who maybe aren't familiar with Bushwick or don't live in New York City, it's a very like artsy, like cool place, but there will never be a Ritz-Carlton in Bushwick.
Exactly.
It is not that kind of neighborhood.
Exactly.
It's not like it's like the opposite of Tribeca. Let's put it that way.
Facts.
And so just in case people don't really know what Bushwick is. And so it was so funny. I think it also kind of pokes fun in a lighthearted way of like sort of the gentrification population of the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
And I am part of that population. So
Yeah,
that's
same.
not
You and me both.
That's not me calling anyone out in any way. It's me calling myself out. But I like stayed at the Ritz-Carlton when I was a kid with my family and like now live in a very opposite place of where Ritz-Carlton will never be. And I thought it was so funny because it's like nostalgic for me, but also like I live in the neighborhood. I loved it. It was genius.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Are you ever going to put that on a t-shirt or a sweatshirt? Because
I should. I can. People have hit me up like, can you please put it on a sweatshirt or a t-shirt?
I commented on the Instagram post saying, please make this into a shirt because honestly, I don't really wear baseball caps, but I would buy it in a second if it was on a sweatshirt or a t-shirt.
I'll make you one special.
Oh my gosh. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. But and then just go back. So like if we were to say like, because I love the inspiration question, right? And it's like, it's like, it's everything throughout my life, of my childhood, of my current living situation, of whatever. It's like, it all shines through and like, not only like who I am as a person, but like in my brand too. And like, so if we said like, the two major inspirations, like people's places or people, places and things, also like other brands that I really love. Like I love other skate brands, like Dime is really sick. There's a really cool brand called It's an Honest Living. And I was inspired by them when I started because they don't release like full collections, and nor do I. Like I've never released like, or maybe in the beginning, maybe once, but not in the very recent past. I always release like, here's some t-shirts, here's some hats, here's some sweatshirts, here's some whatever, right? And not doing that full like spring summer 2022 launch. Here's a collection of 22 pieces that you might like. I was always inspired by brands that kind of just like do their own thing, right? Like it's not like, you release a collection of a hat, a t-shirt and a sweatshirt at one time, right? And I thought to myself, I was like, okay, cool. Like this is a cool way to like be able to like, kind of like release things and like have little mini collections. And when I first started, I was releasing things like every like 3 or 4 months, maybe even like 4 months, I think. And one of my friends who also owned a brand was like, dude, you gotta be in front of people a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like you should aim to release things like once a month. And so I adopted this strategy of like coming up with fresh products or trying to come up with like fresh products or fresh ideas once a month. And I think it also like puts a little bit less pressure on me to come out with like a full collection where every piece has to be the sickest piece you've ever seen. It kind of like, again, going back to that inspiration of like seeing other brands doing things out of the ordinary, and not really giving a shit. You know what I mean? Like not like trying to like, collab with the biggest brands. And like I've had opportunities to collab with like much larger brands. But I just want to keep it like I want to keep it kind of like low key and underground, and I want to do more collabs with artists. But yeah. Yeah, that's my inspiration story for sure.
I love that.
Thank
What
you.
does your design process look like? Once you
Mhm.
have the inspiration, how do you actually go about designing and creating your pieces?
Yeah, good question. So I'm not a designer per se by trade. Um, I've taught myself how to use Adobe Illustrator probably like only like 15% of the way. So essentially, like what I do is I see something in the street or think of something that inspires me, and I'll put it on in Illustrator, and I'll see it like in a computer animated design style, and I'm like, okay, like that looks cool. I think that would like look good. I then will go to so I have like two ways of production, like direct to garment printing where I can just do a few samples, and then screen printing where I do all of my production. I'll send it to a direct to garment factory, and they'll send it back. I look at it, I look it up, I try it on. And then like if I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, I love this. And I was like, it looks so good. That's kind of like my test. I then will send the design to my screen printer. Once I get it back, I'll send the photos to my lay fat photographer. I'll have a photographer that I work with take some photos, like, lifestyle photos, and then I'll release it to the public. The first time I saw someone wearing a Bushwick Yacht Club shirt in public that like wasn't my homie was like the sickest. It was like hearing my song on the radio for the first time. I was walking down the street in Bushwick, and I saw this dude walking past me. I like bolted across the street. I was like, dude, this is my brand. This is the first time I've ever seen anybody wearing this. You have to tell me where you got it. You have to tell me like, like where you heard about it. And it's so cool. And I don't know if that answers the story of like the design process, or maybe that's more of like a production process, but like having an idea in my brain, or whoever, like any creative person that has an idea in their brain, makes it tangible and then releases it to the public, is like the best feeling in the entire world. It's like ideation and creation, right? Like making your ideas come to life. And then me being able to wear my ideas, and like my whole wardrobe is Bushwick Yacht Club. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
When someone puts on a Bushwick Yacht Club shirt or hat
Mm-hmm.
or sweatshirt or anything, what do you want them to think and feel?
Good question. I want them to feel like, number one, like this is a shirt that I could like wear every day. The quality is super important to me. The t-shirt game is super saturated. There are a ton of people selling t-shirts on Instagram. There are a ton of people selling t-shirts on Etsy, wherever you want to buy your t-shirt from. I want someone to put on a t-shirt and forget the design, forget what it looks like. I want them to try it on and be like, wow, like this t-shirt fits fantastically. I like the way it feels. The neck is a little bit higher. The sleeves are a little bit longer. It like feels right. Right. And then I want them to look at the design, and like, I want them to look at the design and smile and like, and have fun and like be light. You know what I mean? And like, I want them to be walking down the street and have someone look at them, and that person that's looking at them be like, what is Bushwick Yacht Club? Like you have to tell me. And it's happened to a ton of people that I've talked to, and then like getting people into a conversation. I know girls that have met boyfriends from them wearing a Bushwick Yacht Club shirt, and
No
like a dude
way.
goes up to him at the bar, and like, it's a pickup line, but like, what is Bushwick Yacht Club, right? It's like a fun, like light conversation starter, like kind of like piece or brand.
That's
Yeah.
such a great story of someone meeting
Yeah,
someone
I know,
through your
right? Yeah, yeah,
clothing.
yeah, totally.
That's
Exactly. Yeah,
awesome.
isn't that wild? Yeah, yeah.
What are your favorite parts of running your brand and the most challenging parts?
Whew. The uh my favorite part is wearing a new shirt that I haven't told anybody about or I haven't released, and people being like, "What is that? Like that is sick." Right? Whether it's on the street, whether it's my homies, whether it's my coworkers, whether it's just anybody that I see, that like kind of like um that feeling of like I thought something was cool and like maybe it's like a little validation thing. But like, having that feeling of other people being like, dude, that's really good. Um, the most challenging part is trying to put enough time into my business while also juggling all of the other things that I have to do in my life. My corporate job, my marriage, my friends, my dog, my family, like trying to like spend time with my parents and like putting that all in. And like it's one thing to like keep it afloat, right? It's one thing to stay flat, but then it's another thing to put in enough effort and to be strategic enough to grow. What I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a business, right? And like what I want to do is I want to grow the business and I want to make as much stuff as possible. I want to make as many donations as possible, right? And so like having to like trying to like grow a business amongst all of the other things in the ecosystem of my life that are like, flying at me 100 miles an hour, can be very challenging, but at the end of the day is extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like being able to see your work have a very concrete, tangible impact both on the
Mhm.
local community, on your
Absolutely.
customers.
Mhm.
But yeah, it also sounds like it can be quite exhausting or maybe a lot of pressure on you as
Yeah,
well.
for sure. And it is a lot of pressure. And like there's also like, thinking like, okay, like, will I ever be able to do this full time? Right. Like I'm putting so much effort into this. Like, will I be ever be able to do it full time? And again, like maybe going back to the like imposter syndrome or self doubt or like overcoming, challenges or overcoming failures, to just kind of like keep my head down and try to do the best I can and grow the brand. And again, work it into the ecosystem of things that I have going on in my life.
Yeah, throughout the 5 years that you've been running this brand, did
Mhm.
you ever have a failure or a setback that really affected you?
Um, Not necessarily, and I think, and I'll tell you why, is because I've had other kind of like failures or challenges in my life that make the thought of like the worst that could happen is like I make 50 t-shirts and I don't sell any of them. You know what I mean? Like I can tell you about like some early kind of like failures that I had and like how I kind of like worked through those through wins of like growing up as a skateboarder. It's like, very kind of like in the 90s, it's very kind of like counterculture, rebellious. And so I always had like a really kind of like tough relationship with education, with kind of like, the normal path of someone who is age 10 to 18, where you go to school and you go to high school and you think about getting into college and whatever, right? So I never finished high school. I'm a high school dropout. I worked in restaurants up until I was 27 years old. I had almost like kind of like accepted my fate. I had tried to gone to school a couple times in between, and I never had the self confidence. I never felt like I was smart enough. I never felt like I was going to be able to do anything, and I had almost like accepted my fate of like, I don't want to say fate because a lot of people who work in restaurants are very happy. A lot of people that work in restaurants are very successful. A lot of, and I'm not bashing the restaurant industry at all. Um, at 27, I was at lunch with a few of my friends and we were having a conversation. And one of them was like, I just got into grad school. One of them was like, I just bought a house. One of them was like, I'm about to get married. I got a promotion at work. And I felt like I didn't have anything to add to the conversation. And it was like a really kind of like self-reflecting kind of low point to where I was like, wow, I was like, I really need to like start to try to do something. And at that point, I decided like I'm gonna try to go back to school, and I'm really gonna try to like I'm really gonna like put some effort into it. Uh, I was working full time. I took one class at a city college. It's like an English writing class, and I got an A. And I was like, I got my grade back, and I was like, what? I took two classes, and I got two A's, and I was like, I had this like this little momentum, and I had like this feeling of like, wow, I'm like, okay, like maybe I can do this. 2.5 years later, I got an associate's degree in hotel and restaurant management. I am walking at graduation. My family's there. My ex-girlfriend and her family are there. I walk across the stage to get the diploma and just erupt in tears because like I had this feeling of like, oh my God, like I am good enough. Like I can do this. And it was like such an amazing, like pivotal moment in the trajectory of my life that it was like it was maybe one of the coolest moments of my life. Right from there, I went to Northeastern, one of the top 50 schools in the U.S., or it was at the time. I got a bachelor's degree in accounting. I went to grad school in Spain. I got a master's in marketing, and so from this 27-year-old kid who thought he was going to work in restaurants his whole life, to overcoming like this very deep rooted disbelief in my abilities, I was able to overcome all of that. And as I have worked through a lot of things since then, it puts other failures into perspective. Like having like little wins along the way, but having like those big wins, is like it puts everything else into perspective. I can put food, I can put food on my table. I can take care of my well, my wife works too. I don't take care of her, but I can take care of my family. I can take care of my dogs. Like when I have these like small setbacks or small failures in my business, I think about like how far I've come. And like one of my favorite quotes is like, the only time you should look back is to see how far you've come. And it's like, all of that kind of like just puts it into perspective for me of like failures that I have now. I've overcome so much more, and I've overcome so much like self-doubt and so much like, yeah, I guess like so much self-doubt that now I feel like I could do anything. Like literally, I mean, I probably can't do brain surgery, but like I could like I know now that I can learn how to do most things. And that also helps with imposter syndrome for me, of saying like, okay, I'm in a room, people may be smarter than me. Number one, they may not be able to outwork me. And number two, I could learn, right? Like I know how to learn things. So like if I'm in a meeting and I hear people talking about something that I don't know, I go and I search it. And also now with like ChatGPT and the access to like information of everything, it's like things are easy to learn. And again, like, just coming from overcoming the failures of my younger years makes me now feel like I could do anything.
Wow, that story is so inspirational. I'm
Thank
like
you.
speechless.
Thank you.
That's incredible. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
wow.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm literally speechless because that is so inspirational and so cool. And wow, sorry. I
Yeah.
just was
Yeah.
like I'm just like absorbing all of that
Yeah.
because yeah, that's how incredible
Thank
that you're
you.
able to get to like this point where you're so successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
incredible.
Yeah. It's a journey, man. Like life is crazy. And like, so also like even sometimes a part of that like makes me think like, okay, like, oh, I wish I would have known what I know now at a younger age, but it doesn't happen like that. Like that's not how life works. I'm here. I am me, who I am right now for a reason, and I'm doing my best. And this is my journey, right? This is my life, and this is my journey, and yeah.
Yeah, you were meant to go through all of that because
Hmm.
had you, let's say, like completed high school, then went to college right away, you maybe wouldn't
Hmm.
have gone to grad school or you would be on a totally different
Yeah,
path. And
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
As you look forward
Hmm.
to what Bushwick Yacht Club has in its future,
Hmm.
what how do you want the brand to change or evolve over the next couple of years?
Really good question. So right now, and I actually just had a conversation with a good friend of mine. She's going to help me do this. So right now, Bushwick Yacht Club, I essentially, from a production standpoint, I print on blank T-shirts and blank sweatshirts and blank hats. Right. I'm a bit limited to my production, and when I say limited, like there's thousands of different styles of like blank T-shirts and sweatshirts and hats. Um, what I want to do and what I'm 100% going to do in the future is make my own garments. Make a sick windbreaker. Make a really sick fleece. Make I can make I can make a shirt like this. And again, it goes back to like the idea of like I don't know how to do it now, but I can learn. Like I could learn how to do it, and I could also like use my resources of my friend Ariel, who's going to help me do this. Right? Like having a vision, and like that's the vision of like to start to like create more like custom garments. And back to the inspiration part, like there's so many sick brands who are making so much cool stuff. It's just like the inspiration is endless, and like the possibilities are endless too when you have this feeling of like I can learn how to do it, and I could do it. It's going to take trial and error for sure. Like the first ones may come out and I'll be like, oh my god, these suck, but like that's the next step for Bushwick Yacht Club, is to like start to make like some custom garments, because from there like the sky's the limit, right? Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's so exciting. I'll have to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your definition of success?
Oof, that's a good one. I don't know if there's a I don't know if success is like a point that you reach, or like if like okay, like if I do this, I'm gonna be successful, or if I do this, like being able to like pay rent in one of the most expensive cities is like a definition of success. Being able to give my dog and my cats and my wife, again, not that I give my wife her life, but like being able to like be the best, like being able to be the best husband that I can, being able to be the best dog and cat dad that I can, being able to be the best friend that I can, being able to be the best brother, the best son, like, the best coworker, the best whatever, like, trying to like being able to like be those things. And I think like are, if you feel like you're doing those things well, then that could be a measure of success. Again, like success also could be like, you know, getting up in the morning and making your bed and going to the gym, right? Like success could be like, oh, I have a shitty habit that I need to stop. And then 3 months later you stop doing it and you're like, okay, like, like I've like that's success. And maybe the definition of success is like making small wins. But yeah, I think like also I have another conversation with my friend from time to time, like, and I think especially in New York, like I'm very hard on myself. And I think a lot of people who are successful are hard on themselves. And like, at what point do you say like, okay, like being hard on yourself can be advantageous because it may get you to the next step. But then when you're to that next step, you have to stop being hard on yourself and like give yourself a break and be like, okay, like I made it here. Like one of my life mottos is that you're an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I love this one. It's so good. My homies in New York are like, one of my best friends is the CEO of a 50-person tech company. One of my best friends is like this like wizard construction guy. One of my best friends is Columbia grad chemist. They're all super smart, super hardworking. When I surround myself with those type of people, with people who hustle, with people who work really hard, it then in turn makes me more like them. Um, So yeah, I don't know. I think I went on a tangent. I kind of forgot what the question was.
No, that was perfect. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I've heard that quote before, the
Yeah.
5 people
Yeah.
you surround yourself with. And it sounds like you have such a strong support system between
Hmm.
your wife and your friends.
Absolutely. My folks, like my
Yeah.
parents are major inspirations to me. My mom was an artist. I remember when I was young, we used to have like open houses, and people would like come through our house, and she made like these really amazing, like large pillows with watercolor. My dad is just a beast. He's a entrepreneur. He's a comedian. He's a just like my dad's my hero, man. He's the best. My dad at like 70 years old went back and got his real estate license and started like doing like business brokerage for for restaurants at like 70 years old. And he's just like, I'm not done. I'm not ready. And it's so cool. And it's such an inspiration. And like, that's just, yeah. Yeah.
They must be so proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. We had this really cool moment. I had a documentary made about Bushwick Yacht Club. I got a email one day from this guy named Jake. Jake is one of the founders of Yacht Club Films. So Yacht Club
Perfect
Film,
alignment.
right? So Yacht Club Films is this really amazing commercial production company. They do commercials for Burger King, Veuve Clicquot, a lot of like amazing, like huge brands. And I mean, we're talking like, massive red cameras and like, huge rigs and sets going upside down and like a lot of like really kind of cool stuff. And he reached out to me one day via email and he said, "Hey, my name's Jake. I run this commercial production company. Once a year, I look for a passion project. I've seen what you've done for Bushwick Yacht Club." And this is the video that you saw.
It's on YouTube if anyone
Yeah.
wants to see it.
And he was like, "I would love to make like a short documentary about about your brand and what you're doing for the community." I said, "Perfect." I said, "Let's meet for a beer." We went to Pearl's. Pearl's is my favorite bar in Bushwick. You know Pearl's?
Yeah, I know
Shout out
Pearls.
Pearl's. And we had a beer and we hit it off. He's an amazing dude. 2 weeks later, I had a film crew in my apartment at 4 a.m. with a boom mic. We're going around town. We're putting up stickers and wheat paste posters. We went and met up with Danny Cortez, who's like an absolute neighborhood legend. We went to the door and we had a screening at a place called Mika. That's no longer there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know.
Place was so
Mika.
cool. It's so good. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Mika.
And we had a film screening. I forget how many people there, maybe like 100, 150 people there. My parents came. I made a speech beforehand. We watched the movie. And as my dad was leaving, he told me, he's like, this is a really proud moment for our family. It's really cool.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, this has been wonderful. Are you ready to move into the lightning round?
I'm ready. Here we go.
All right. What is something new that you've tried lately?
What is something new? Cold plunge.
Okay. I have strong feelings about the cold plunge trend.
Against or for?
For me personally,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, tell me.
Both. Okay,
Yeah.
so I've done it a couple times and
Okay.
I hate it,
Okay.
but I love the way it makes me feel after.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very, I don't know. I
like
feel
it hurts so good almost. Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I love it. I have a membership to this place that has like a spa. I go and it's awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's good. So that's something new that I've tried. Listen, I'm not going every day and I'm not staying in for like, 10 minutes, but yeah, I'll say the cold plunge.
Yeah, I know it has so many health benefits,
Yeah,
but
sure.
every time I've done it, I've been miserable. But then afterward, I'm like, oh wow, it feels
There's
like I just drank a coffee.
Totally.
Like it gives you
feels
kind
like
of a
I
jolt.
feel like I'm gonna rave after I get out. It's really good. I mean, like there's very kind of like euphoric feeling. Also, like if we were to even like trace this back to like things that like for like self-care, that's like another thing. Like if I'm having a rough day, I'll go sit in the steam room and then I'll go in the cold plunge and I'll bike home and I'm feeling good. It helps me kind of like de-stress a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's so popular, but I just can't get myself to do it
totally.
regularly.
Yeah.
Do you have a lesson or a message that you want to share with listeners?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like my message to anybody is like it's never too late. Right? Like there's always something you can do to, if you're unhappy with a situation, if you think you want to do better, if you think you want to do more, If you think you want to do less, if you're doing too much, it's never too late to make a change. Yeah, and I think I'm a clear case of that. Just go for it. Read about whatever you want to do. If you want to do a new hobby, or if you want to, yeah, it's never too late.
I love that.
Thanks.
What is one thing you wish you knew when you were first starting out?
Starting out life or Bushwick Yacht Club?
I guess either, however you
Ooh,
want to interpret.
yeah. If there's one thing that I knew if there's one thing I wish I knew when I started Bushwick Yacht Club, I think it would be like to use my homie Matt at Classy Screens for the whole thing, or to like just be like a little bit more dialed into like how to communicate with screen printers. There's one other thing that I knew. I wish yeah, I think that's it. And again, I think like, the mistakes that you make shape who we are now. So maybe if I hadn't made those mistakes, I wouldn't be doing the same thing that I'm doing now. But yeah.
Awesome. All right, Aaron, where can people find you? Check out Bushwick Yacht Club, support you, support the causes that you donate to, all the things.
Totally. So Instagram, bushwick.yacht.club, bushwickyachtclub.com. The charity that I'm donating to now is called The Door, thedoor.org, I believe. They're on Broome Street in New York. Yeah, super happy to be here. This was really cool. Like I told you before, this was my first time ever doing this, and I was like a little nervous coming into it. And what's funny is like I was reading, or I was listening to a bunch of your episodes and hearing you introduce the people. It was like Emmy Award winning director, and I was like, oh shit. But this was so good, and it was so nice, and I loved being here. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You've created a good safe space for me to be able to kind of like explain my life and my brand, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. You were wonderful. And yeah, just hearing about your mission has been so inspirational. And I just love the fact that you help people so locally, and you can see the impact on the city that you're having.
Totally.
And it's amazing.
Totally.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. New episodes every Tuesday. Aaron, thank you so much again for coming on.
Amazing.